Yo, people and patrons of the night. It is your boy BD. I'm the host of the Horror Tavern, and today I got a little bit of an early July reading wrap up. This is my first July reading wrap up video on the channel, or I guess I should say like monthly reading wrap up video on my channel, because today I wanted to quickly review three short stories that I read that were the remaining books on the Amazon Creature Feature collection that I was covering, because these three stories basically ended up kind of being underwhelming compared to the first three. The first three I made individual reviews on, so if you want to go check those out, you can click on my horror short story playlist on the channel, and those have the first three stories. The Pram by Joe Hill, Ankle Snatcher by Grady Hendrix, and It Waits in the Woods by Josh Mallerman. So those were very good short stories, so I have individual reviews for those three. These three, because I wasn't as impressed as I was in the first half, I decided just to make a quick video to do quick little reviews and then wrap up my reading. And I will be reading another book, or maybe another couple books for this remaining July, but they're all going to be getting individual reviews. So I may tease what that's going to be. I got them actually down below me right now because I'm about to go take them and read them. So today, as it's said in the video, I'm going to be wrapping up the Amazon Creature Feature Original Story Collection. These three stories are called In Bloom by Paul Tremblay, very famous horror author. You have Jason Mott's Best of Luck, and you have Big Bad by Chandler Baker, I believe. So these three stories, compared to the first half of the Creature Feature collection, these are not only feel more shorter, but they sort of feel more incomplete. They don't seem to have as much, in my opinion, meticulous effort as the first three stories were put into. So these feel more like short stories and actually fleshed out ones. So I'm just going to do quick little reviews of each, just give my brief thoughts. It's been a little bit since I've read them, but I refreshed a little bit. And then I'll hint to what I'm going to be reading for the last few days of July. So the first short story, In Bloom by Paul Tremblay. This covers a reporter called Heidi. She's a young girl reporter, and she's basically doing stories on the dangers of algae bloom. There's a lot of algae that's filling up the lakes and rivers by where she lives on Cape Cod, and these potentially have harmful effects. They may be polluting some of the wildlife, polluting some of the shellfish, what the hell? I got beat by a tongue twister, and I'm not even reading a tongue twister. But it infects some of the shellfish, some of the marine biology around Cape Cod, and effectively it might pollute some of the wildlife as well as potentially the human population if they're feeding off of this seafood and stuff. So she ends up trying to go do some articles and some research, trying to find out the toxins and the pollution that may be a result of this algae and some of the chemical plants that might be fueling this stuff. And as she does go down this rabbit hole, she ends up finding this older guy named Jimmy. And this guy, Jimmy, apparently experienced a story where he was basically in a situation that a lot of people ended up getting killed by some algae at a local lake or river. So she ends up trying to find this guy, trying to figure out what may have happened because, you know, if this might be her breakthrough case, if she wants to prove that algae bloom is dangerous, meeting a guy who saw a bunch of people die to it would be pretty good evidence for her story. And when she finally meets Jimmy and he starts telling his story, he talks about when he was a kid and how much he never wanted to become an athlete. He never wanted to play baseball. So he was at the beach with his mom and dad, and his dad decided to go hit a local baseball field while it was scorching hot out. And normally Jimmy as a kid would always say no. He would never want to go to any baseball games with his dad. But for some unknown reason, he decided to go with his dad at this time. And as they went to the baseball field, they had a really weird encounter where at the end of the game, somebody started screaming from behind them. And when they turned around behind the baseball field and looked towards the river at the back, they saw somebody coming out of the water, and they had like red rashes all across the skin. They looked like they had some sort of allergic reaction. And when they finally went to the river to try to go help them out, some weird stuff starts going on that may or may not be a result of the algae bloom. People start hallucinating, maybe some toxins get out, people start getting infected, and then let's just say that this algae may or may not have had a mind of its own. And that's where I'm going to leave it at, because after she interviews this story, she thinks that, all right, it's a crazy tale. I can't really use this as evidence. And she ends up maybe having a specific encounter or experience that may or may not tie to Jimmy's encounter. That's essentially the story. This one was an underwhelming one. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. This story, while it did have some cool aspects to it, especially with the imagery of what happens with the algae. If you've ever seen Creepshow 2, the movie, and you've seen the segment with the raft, there's a entity in the story of the raft that kind of had similar imagery involving the algae bloom here. It's got its own thing going on, but there's similar things to the short story The Raft by Stephen King, and obviously the movie adaptation to this story, except that one was much more concise, action-packed, to the point. And meanwhile, this short story has a lot of meandering. It has a lot of just slice of life with Heidi the reporter, and her situation with the roommate, and just a lot of yapping, a lot of background noise until you finally get to the ending, and it felt sort of underwhelming. It felt like you were sort of cut short. So yeah, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. The next story is Best of Luck by Jason Mott, and this one was actually pretty damn good. I would give this story probably like an 8 out of 10. And this felt like a Creepshow story. In fact, this feels like a story that could be adapted into some Creepshow media. Best of Luck by Jason Mott takes on the life of this farmer. He's a very hardworking farmer running a farm, and he never takes a day off. He basically works like 6-7 days a week. It's all hard labor. And eventually one day he decides, you know what, I got enough money saved up. I'm going to go take a like week-long or 2-week-long vacation at the Bahamas. He leaves his farm behind and puts it in the trust of a caretaker while he goes out to the beach and islands and enjoys and has a good time, ladies, sunshine and all that good stuff, drinking out of a coconut, pina coladas. And when he comes back, his life has basically gone to fucking shit, because his farm basically burned down, the barn burned down, his dog died, his wife left him, and all this crazy shit, this spontaneous chain of bad luck events just happened that he walks into, and he basically loses his entire livelihood. And you cut to the perspective currently of what's happening in the story, where this farmer, down on his luck, has basically kidnapped a wealthy friend of his and kept him at gunpoint with the double-barrel shotgun. And he's basically telling him his story about all this bad luck that's going on in his life. And the wealthy friend is obviously freaked out. He's like, yo, don't do anything crazy, yo. Don't shoot me, don't kill my family, please. Like, I can give you money, I can help you out. And then the farmer's like, just shut the fuck up and listen to what I have to say. And then it's revealed that the farmer has a growing, disgusting tumor on his stomach, which he reveals by lifting up his shirt, and it has a face. This tumor on his stomach has eyeballs, has teeth, has hair. It looks like another being is fused into his stomach. And obviously the wealthy guy is grossed out. He vomits. He's like, what the fuck is that? And the farmer goes, oh, you know what the fuck it is. You're responsible for this shit. And he makes these crazy claims that this wealthy friend is the one who's responsible for all the bad luck that's happened to him. And he claims that this talking tumor creature on his stomach has been telling him all these hidden truths, which is that this wealthy guy apparently put a curse on him or did something that caused him to zap the luck from the farmer's life and give it over to himself, which is why he's so rich, which is why he's so successful, which is why he has a great family life. Meanwhile, the farmer guy is basically getting dicked on warrior style by life in every single field. So he says, you know what, you gotta take this shit back. You gotta take all this bad luck back. I need my life back. And if you don't, I'm gonna kill you and your whole family. And it's like, all right, that's where the story basically takes place. And the ending may or may not reveal that there might be more than meets the eye, and maybe somebody within the story knows more than they're leading on. And that's where I'll leave that at. This is a really good story. This is a good one. I'd give it, again, 8 out of 10. It's a good short story. It's really disgusting at points. It's really weird, but it feels again like that creep show sort of comic style of story, which makes it really interesting because it's so obscure, so weird, but it's so to the point, and it is effective for what it is. And the ending has some really fucked up implication as to what may be going on, and it has some deeper moral themes in there about the life of social people, social classes of rich people versus poor people, and how bad luck basically operates in the universe and cosmos. So I'll leave it at that. And finally, the last story of the Amazon creature feature to wrap up this July reading wrap up is The Big Bad by Chandler Baker. Now, The Big Bad, I forget a lot of stuff because the story was so not good, but the story is basically about the Strauss family. It's the family of like a husband, wife, and their two daughters, I believe. And the husband is a stay-at-home dad who's got like anger issues. He's always fed up with his wife and the life that he's got dealt with. He loves his kids, but he's always frustrated and getting angry. And I think the mom may be like a scientist or some type of researcher who's like trying to get her articles and reports published. And she's like meeting with all these people, and she's trying to, I guess, promote her husband's work, but he never catches on or gets any success, which makes him more mad. So family's got some internal issues and struggles going on. And the house that they live in, this farmhouse, ends up having this mudslide that basically runs through the woods and causes a bunch of wolves to start appearing at their farmhouse, as well as some strangers who start knocking on the door and trying to bother the husband and his family. So you got some unexpected visitors, some weird stuff going on. But then you find out that the family might have a hidden secret, which is that maybe one of the family members is dealing with lycanthropy, turning into a werewolf, and there might be more than meets the eye, your typical stuff, all unveil the family secrets. But the story is a little bit messy. The way the short story is written, it bounces back and forth between the husband and the wife's perspective, and you keep having just kind of like random go-go gadget bullshit. The actual lycanthropy stuff with the werewolf is not actually really explained much. It's just sort of hinted, hey, somebody in this family knew about this lycanthropy thing and has been keeping it a secret and has been trying to maintain the stability of the family. I don't fucking know. And then you got this whole, maternal versus paternal thing, whatever. And the ending is sort of just, I don't know, just felt sort of whatever. The ending is just like, okay, something happens and somebody takes somebody's side and I don't know, maternity wins. That's the story. Maternity wins, but it's poorly done. And I didn't really feel like a good werewolf story. Honestly, I didn't even really think there was a point to the werewolf stuff. Just felt sort of more like a parenting, maternal, paternal issue thing. I don't know. Wasn't that good of a short story. So I'd probably give that one like a 4.5, 5 out of 10. It's a kind of bad, boring story. So I was not impressed at all with that one. And that wraps up the Amazon Creature Feature collection. So basically I'm going to be doing a ranking for these 6 short stories. But overall, I would say the first 3 stories were really fucking good. They had a lot of fleshed out concepts. They had a lot of badass imagery and just high stake tension and all this stuff going on. And Jason Mott's Best of Luck story was pretty good. It felt like a typical horror short story, but a good one. It had some gross out and some deeper themes to it. So shout out to him. But it wasn't as good as the first 3, and the other 2, In Bloom and Big Bad, were sort of disappointing. So overall, I'd probably give this short story collection like an 8 out of 10. It's a good one. Maybe I'd even give it like an 8.5. I'd recommend you pick it up just for Jason Mott's story and for the other 3, but in the second half, I don't think you should expect the same level of quality. It kind of goes downhill, and considering that it's 6 stories, I do have to grade them pretty fairly. So yeah, those are my thoughts on those 3 short stories. And now let me reveal what I'm going to be reading for the remainder of July, because I actually got the books down here, and I'm going to be checking them out and reading them. So the book that I'm going to be picking up today and reading for the remainder of July is a Spine Tingler story. And actually all 3 of these are Spine Tingler stories, as well as one Goosebumps book that I think I'll start picking up and reading. So I got the one I will start reading today, Killer Computer. This one I'm excited for because it's one of the best Goosebumps knockoff books that a lot of people have said. My friends like Goosebumps Completionists, Monster Blood have all loved this one. So this is like a fan favorite, well regarded by both of those guys. So I'm excited to read this. This one I'll probably read as well. I don't know if I'll read this maybe back to back, but I might read this one just to, I don't know, just to get more kids horror knockoff reviews. So it's going to be Spine Tinglers, Step on a Crack. This one is also, I heard, is pretty good. It's got an insane story from what I've heard so far. So I might read this by the end of July, or maybe I might save this for next month. But this might be the last Goosebumps knockoff maybe I read for the remainder of the summer. I got some other stuff as well, but I should say the last Spine Tinglers book I read for the summer, because I want to save some more Spine Tinglers to read for the future. So these two books are probably what I'm going to do for Spine Tinglers. And then finally, this one I might actually try to read as soon as possible, just because I want to get it out of the way. And this is a Give Yourself Goosebumps book that I'm not really looking forward to, so I kind of just want to get over it and just read it, which is Twister of Terror. So Into the Twister of Terror. I'm probably going to read this book and just get it over with, just because, you know, I'm not really a fan of the concept. Don't really care much about twisters. I heard this one's not even really that big of a good one. So yeah, I just kind of want to get it over with. So those are going to be my up and coming reads, at least for kids horror. And for adult horror, I'll figure out what I'm going to read, because I don't got a plan really right now for the rest of the adult horror stuff that I'll cover for the remainder of the summer. But that's all I got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this early July reading wrap up. And if you did, smash that subscribe button down below. Obliterate that like button like your life depends on it. And stay tuned for more content to come. So, deuces. I got no ending this time for the cutscene, so bye, bitches.